Hello everyone! It's been a long time since I've been doing live streams. This is my new pattern. My patrons already received this pattern in scope of monthly pattern program, and they received all 3 designs. And this pattern is also available on my Etsy shop. It's really easy pattern, and I'm going to be stitching this pattern with you. This one is already stitched, but I'm going to be stitching this one. I used only simple stitches. You can see it clearly because it's a black floss, and as you can see, all the lines are really sharp. That's because I use specific stitches to make them look like this. But you can use any other stitches which you like. I have a video tutorials about outline stitches on my YouTube channel, and you can use any other stitch if you want, but I highly recommend you to follow my stitching directions if you want to get such sharp lines like this. Originally it was my just a sketch in my sketchbook, and I decided to turn it to embroidery. I was stitching it on the evening when I was resting, and it really helps to relax your mind because you are not really looking too much into instructions, and it's really simple to do, so you can just stitch and relax. Okay, let's start stitching. You guys asking about the fabric. This fabric is gabardine fabric. It's like it's a synthetic fabric, so you need to be careful with this fabric when you are ironing it. So you need to use low temperatures when you are ironing, like temperature for silk and stuff like that. And those 2 pieces I will be stitching with cotton, and as you can see I have 2 layers. I like to keep my fabric tight in the hoop, and having 2 fabrics, it really helps. And at the same time I have my fabric is not transparent. If your fabric is a little bit transparent, you can use 2 layers like this. So 2 layers here and 2 layers here as well. And this one I already stretched in the hoop, and this is how my back side looks like. So first layer here is a gabardine, and another layer is cotton on the back. And I will cover it with felt as I usually do. If you want to see this video tutorial about this process of hooping, you can find it on my YouTube channel if you want. If you guys have some questions, you can ask me here in the chat. Okay, let's talk about materials. Materials are really simple. You need only black floss, 6-stranded embroidered floss, which you can separate and have 1 or 2 strands. I used 1 strand for all the teeny details and 2 strands for bold lines. You probably need only 1 size of needle. I use a regular sewing needle. The size of the eye is really small, but I'm able to use two strands here anyway. So you will be using only 1 or 2 strands, so you need only small needle. You can use any other embroidery needles. It can be small because it's much comfortable to use small sizes, because this way you can do small holes in the fabric, and you can do such delicate and teeny details. What pen do you use on the fabric? So I like to use heating erasable gel pen. So when I started, I was using only Pilot friction pen. So this is how it looks like. It's a well-known brand, and it works very well, and you can buy different colors, and the ink disappears when you heat. You can use your hair dryer, or you can use iron so the ink will disappear. And you can use other brands which are also heating erasable, and they can be cheaper than Pilot Friction, so you can just look for those pens on Amazon. And this is which is different for these pens. So this is a razor which you can use on paper to remove it, and so this is how you can recognize them. And erasable ink, you can use any kind of pen, but if you use something different from Pilot Friction, just test it first on your fabric, and because after heating they can leave some ghost lines. So when you stitch, you just try to cover everything with your stitches, so all the lines will be behind your stitches, just in case. How did you draw the pattern, these details, and what kind of materials you use for drawing the pattern? I like to transfer my patterns using light pad, and you can also use your tablet device. I will make a video tutorial about this. I have it already posted on my Patreon, so you can find it there if you are my patron, or you can join it, my Patreon, and find this video tutorial about how to turn your tablet device into light pad. And later I will post it on my YouTube channel when I will have some time. So basically, regarding the stitches, I'm gonna use only few stitches for this, and they are all simple. For those bold lines that you can see, it's outline for leaf, and the central line, and the stem here, and the outline for these berries. So all the bold lines I use whipped back stitch. So it's just a simple stitch. So you do just a regular back stitch, and then you are just whipping it, and it creates a really bold and solid line. So this is exactly what I need. And for all the teeny details like this, for those teeny strokes, for those veins for leaves, and for those teeny strokes, I use just a back stitch. So you can choose whatever you like. You can stitch it using only back stitch. You can stitch it just to make long straight stitches like this. And it's like a combination of straight stitch and running stitch. And I prefer when the line is too long, I do split stitch. So I do shorter stitches, I split them. So this way, if you are going to be stitching on the clothing or something like that, so it's going to be comfortable to wear, and embroidery will not be like destroyed from wearing it and washing it. Right now I'm using 2 strands, and I'm using 2 strands for all the outlines which are going to be bold lines. A little bit uncomfortable to stitch in the hoop, so I will take it off. So I did this line, and this is just the back stitch right now. And now I'm going to be just whipping. So I go under my previous stitches in the same direction. I'm not splitting the fabric right now, I'm just going under the stitch between the thread and between the fabric. And I use only one direction, so it's going to look like a rope. It's hard to see because it's black floss right now, but you can see the details on my video tutorial on YouTube for outline stitches page, and I use different colors there, so you will clearly see which stitch goes where. But this is a simple stitch. See, if you have this case, it means like my thread is a little bit short, so you can like fix it this way. Find this thread and make it a little bit tighter. Satin stitch is for filling the spaces. I don't use satin stitch in this pattern because I'm just doing outlines. You can turn it into really nice thread painting embroidery and cover every space with satin stitch. You can use different colors. It's not necessarily should be like the style that I did, but you can do it in your style. You can do it in color if you want. So I'm just planning what I do. If I need to do this long line, I do one way with the back stitch to this point, and then I'm going back and I'm whipping it, entire line, and I finish it there. And then I start another line and going back, another line from here and going back, like this. I hope you guys see all the details, what I actually do. I'm trying to not move my hoop really. So I'm finished it and just where I started. And I go to the back side. See, it creates really bold and solid line like this, and I really like it. It even gives some volume. You can feel it with your fingers. So basically most of the thread on the top side. And here is the back side. My thread is short already, so I will be finishing it, and I will do it in my favorite way. I just go under my already done stitches and I create a loop. See? And I go through this loop and I make it really tight, and it creates a teeny knot. So your thread already fixed, and I don't like to have some tails on the back side, and I don't like to cut it really close to the knot because it can be undone, especially when you are washing your clothing with embroidery. So I go under my stitches and I'm whipping my previous stitches few times. You can do it 2 times or 3 times, and now I can cut it really close. And I cut it really close, and you can't actually see where my ends are, and they are not like showing up too much. They are like invisible. So it's really great when you are stitching on clothing. So I just do this way. I'm gonna start a new thread and continue stitching with you guys. So this is how I split my threads. You have 6-stranded cotton threads and you need to pick up only 1 strand. You need to let your thread to unwind in the air. Just make sure that it's not twisted when you are stitching. So I just thread my needle with only 1 strand, this way, and you can do a little knot to start stitching. I'm usually hiding my ends under my future stitches, but as I don't use any satin stitch, which I will cover it, so I just allowing myself to create a teeny knot like this, and it's going to be on the back side. But I would recommend you to start stitching from 2 strands and stitch all the borders you already have. So you will need to stitch all the stamps, all the borders like this border, and you will need to stitch also leaves, this part outside line and the middle one. So this is all should be whipped back stitch with 2 strands, and only those teeny veins, they are going to be stitched using only 1 strand, and I usually use split stitch or back stitch. If you don't know how to start your thread without any knots, I will show you now. So you can do it when you have 2 strands or maybe 4 strands. So you just take 1 strand and you put your ends together. So this way you create 2 strands. And you have a loop on one side. So you thread your needle with 2 strands. I don't use any needle threader. I just lick in my thread, but you can use some needle threader if you want. And you have a loop like this. And you can start from this loop. You can start it from back side. You can start it from top side, wherever you like. Let's start from the top side, so you will see what's going on. So I make 1 stitch and I go through this loop from the top side. And to hide this loop to the back side, you can go exactly into the same place where you come up. So this loop will appear on the back side. And now you just continue stitching with your back stitch. Before I was using pencil for pattern transferring because I just started, I didn't have any materials and any tools, and I didn't know any good tips for embroidery. But pencils can be different, and pencils can be hard to wash away, and it creates a dirty fabric which you don't want. So I don't use pencils. I use gel pens, which are heat erasable, and they also can be easily washed away from your fabric. But one thing you should know about heat erasable pens, that they can leave ghost lines, and they also can appear again when your fabric with embroidery in some cold place. So they can appear again, but you can remove it again with just ironing or hot air from your hairdryer. So just don't worry. Yeah, but test it first on your fabric, on some piece of fabric which you don't need. Just test it, how it behaves, how it disappears, how it can be washed away before using it with actual embroidery project. They originally designed it for writing on the paper. They are not designed for fabric, so you need to keep it in mind. It's just embroidery community decided to use them for embroidery projects because it's really useful. And embroidery floss can be different quality. I use only high quality embroidery floss. I like to use Gamma threads, and they are DMC, which are available in any country. There are other brands that you can use. It's Encore, Madeira, and Cosmos threads, also great quality threads. So I would recommend to use some high quality threads, because especially when you are stitching with black floss, when thread is not really nice quality thread, it can become fluffy, and it can like bleed when you are washing it. So it's really, you need to be careful with that, especially if you are using some unknown threads together with the high quality threads, and it's really nice project which you don't want to mess it up. So be careful. You can test the thread before using it if you don't know how it will behave. So you need to to not tight it too much. Don't tight it too much, because it can create wrinkles. And another tip that you need to keep in mind, that your fabric should be hooped tight. It should be tight in the hoop. Don't stitch without hoop at all. I don't recommend doing it, because you will have a lot of wrinkles. And don't ask me why then, okay? I warned you. Okay, I hope I will have enough threads for this sleeve, so I will finish it. And then I will switch to only one strand. And also, when you are doing backstitch, try to do the equal size stitches. So they should be the same size. Then the line will look perfect. Okay, the last whippings. Whipped backstitch also helps to hide the holes between backstitches. If you will notice, between stitches you will see the holes, especially if, depending on the fabric which you use, so they can be really visible. And when you are whipping this stitch, all the holes, they will just be hidden under the thread. Okay, I finished this part, and now I can use only one strand for details. So I'm gonna make a teeny knot right now. If it's too teeny, you can make it one more time, and it's going to be bigger like this. And I'm gonna start from the back side, so I will leave my knot on the back side, and now I will stitch all those teeny veins. As I said, I don't do long stitches, so I split them like this. For a split stitch, you are just splitting the previous stitch. I like to do it from the top part of the fabric, but you can do it from the back side like this. I will show you this time. But I'm not always can go through the stitch precisely from the back side, so it's a little bit hard to do. So it's easier for me to do from the top side. And this way, if you like drawing, if you like drawing using liners, you can turn any of your drawing into embroidery. And the third stitch which I used, it was French knots. But for this design, I don't have any French knots here. If you want to learn more about French knots, I would recommend you to take a look on my YouTube channel. There is a 15-minute video tutorial, very detailed, about French knots, how to do them properly, and how to avoid 6 common mistakes which people can do. So especially for beginners, I would highly recommend. You will probably learn a lot. Avoid your future mistakes. Somebody asked about how to embroider letters. There is going to be a separate video tutorial for my YouTube channel. It's going to be based on my sample guidebook, and there are going to be 2 pages for lettering, and I will be showing different ways and different stitches and examples how you can stitch letters. So subscribe to my YouTube channel to not miss it. So this is how you can stitch leaves, and it's really simple and meditative, I can say, and really relaxing. Let's see how to stitch French knots. I will probably make another thread, and it's going to be a colorful thread so you can see all the details. Let's try with this one. So I make a knot, and it's going to be on the back side. Let's probably do it on this piece of fabric. So you made a knot, and this is here. You can go from the back side, and you have a knot on the back side. And yeah, it can be uncomfortable when you do French knots, and when you already have a knot on the back side, you can accidentally split it from the top side. But you can just use your fingers and move it slightly to the one side, so you will not be splitting it all the time. So to make a French knot, you can wrap your needle 1 or 2 times, and you need to go not exactly in the same place, but just close to your place when you come up. And you need to use your left hand to keep your thread a little bit tight, but not too tight, because it's going to be hard to go through this knot. And you go to the back side. I'm still keeping my thread until the very end. And this is how you can do French knots. Let's do it one more time. You keep your needle towards the fabric, not this way, okay? This way. Don't forget to keep your floss until the very end. You can do wrap only 1 time. You can wrap 2 times. I like to do 2 times, and when I need just a teeny knots, I do wrapping only 1 time. See, when you do wrapping only 1 time, your French is going to be smaller. When you wrapping 2 times, it's going to be slightly bigger. You can wrap your needle 3 times, but not more, because it's gonna be like a loopy stitch. It's going to be called already another way. So here I am wrapping 3 times. And this French knot is, obviously bigger than when you are wrapping 2 or 1 time. Currently I'm using how many strands? It's 4 strands right now. So you can use different kind of amount of strands depending on how big you want to make your French knots. And I like to use French knots to make the center of the flower, like this. I used French knots to fill this entire center of the flower, and those are also French knots which I stitched around it, and I connected those French knots using back stitches and split stitches, only one strand here. So this is how this flower was created. All those bold lines are whipped back stitch, and all those teeny lines are only one strand, and it's split stitch and running stitch, like a combination of split stitch and running stitch. And as long as you know which stitch to use where from the very beginning, you can stitch entire embroidery without looking into instructions and relax your mind, and yeah, really meditative kind of activity. So this is, guys, how I stitched this. So you can go ahead to my Etsy shop and grab this pattern. It's a set of 3 designs. Next month I will be making some autumn leaves and autumn mushrooms pattern for my patrons. So this is a sketch. I did it in canvas, and it's really cute. And so I will be drawing it, I will be changing the shape of leaves and everything. I will redraw it completely, but this is the idea. This is just the basic collage that I did just in Canva. It's different images which I moved and placed it in where I want it to be. So it's probably going to be the pattern of the month for October for my patrons. And there is another pattern like this, which is going to be like just leaves and berries. Also like relaxing pattern is going to be, but it's going to be a little bit challenging and complicated, especially if I will not be stitching it, because my main project is sample guidebook. So I already have done those pages. And I have video tutorials already posted on my YouTube channel for this page, and this page is free. You can download the pattern from my website. Then I stitched this page. It's also fun. Just look at those flowers. They are simple but they cute, and I love this border which I did for this page. And I also just finished stitching this page for French knots, when I was experimenting with watercolors. As you can see, the background is painted with watercolors. And look how cute those sheeps are. They're wearing floral crowns. I really love it. And they have cutted hearts on their butts, and I really like it. Yeah, this is really cute, and all those patterns are available on my Etsy, on my Patreon. And I will list them on Etsy soon, but I want to finish this French knots page first, and I want to finish the video tutorial for this, and then I will list all those patterns which are already completed on my Etsy shop, so you can buy it separately and practice. So this is what I'm working on right now. If you have some questions, you can ask me. If you enjoy watching my video tutorial and my tips and tricks were helpful for you, please make sure to give it a like and comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the bell so you will not miss my next video tutorials. You can get this sampler and many other samples like this if you join my stitching club on Patreon. It's a perfect place if you are a beginner and don't know where to start. Definitely check out my Patreon page to see all the benefits you can get. That's it, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye!